So we give all the glory and praise to the Most High, Ahaya Ashar Ahaya. We want to thank our Lord and Savior for all that He does for us, Yeshaya and the Holy Spirit, all rock. So we want to thank you for joining us on the Memorial of Trumpets. We're going to understand the Memorial of Trumpets later on today. This is one of Father's holy days. Also today is the Fall Holy Day. According to Jubilees, the 6th chapter, which we're going to go into tomorrow, we are supposed to celebrate the changing of the seasons. And that was ordained throughout all generations. So, with that being said, we want to thank you for joining us on the Memorial of Trumpets. And we want to thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight is going to be the conclusion of our spirits that we're learning about. We're going to learn about the spirit of greed and gluttony. And what does the Bible say about greed and gluttony? At the end of this lesson, we will have an announcement on what we're going to be learning about for the remainder of the year. And I'm pretty excited about what we're going to be learning on Friday nights for the remainder of the year. Right? So we're going to learn about greed and gluttony. So we want to say thank you for joining us on live stream today. Thank you for those who are sitting here in our presence. Greed and gluttony. One of the most darkest personality traits a person can have. And we're going to dissect what really greed is and what really gluttony is. So, you should have your King James Bible. You should have your pen and paper, all right, because it's time for us to go to school. We want to send a shalom to the 12 tribes that are standing throughout the 4 corners of the earth. And we want to say peace and shalom to the Gentile, who is not of the blood lineage of Israel, but they get the surname of Israel because they follow the laws, statutes, and commandments. With that being said, we're going to go to our first scripture right off the bat, Luke 23 and 34. We're going to talk about greed and how greed can destroy people. We all have the potential of being greedy. We all have the potential of having greedy tendencies inside of us. So, we have to understand and know that greed comes from a lack of something. It's always going to be a lack of something. But greed can be a dominant pattern in somebody's life. A very dominant pattern in someone's life. Now with that being said, Luke 23, and let's get the scripture.
Luke chapter 23, verse 34. Then said Yasha, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted his raiment and cast lots.
All right, Yeshaya says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They don't know what they do, Father. So, forgive them of everything. What is greed? Right? Greed is a tendency or a selfish craving, or grasping or hoarding. That's all part of greed. A selfish excess, desire to want what's more than needed, or to want something more than what is deserved. Whether it be money, wealth, food, possessions, it doesn't matter. The components of greed, just like all chief demons, and we're going to understand there's an evil spirit that Yeshaya talked about. We're going to understand what that evil spirit is. Like all components with greed, there's always negative experiences. There's misconceptions of your life. There's a constant fear or insecurity that comes with greed. Right? Or there's a manipulative strategy that someone does to protect themselves. A person tries to hide, above all, in adulthood. So there's some negative experiences, early negative childhood experiences that come with greed. Infants are born in a natural state of desiring for love, right? All infants are. All infants are desiring that nurturing, that care, that attention, the interaction. But what happens when they don't get that? That's when the spirit of greed comes in. Because now they're in want of something and they're not getting it. So that's when the spirit of greed comes in. And it's mostly because of the fact that they're getting the lacking nutrients from love, or the lacking nutrients from attention, or the lack of nutrients from care. So what happens is that the child then becomes wanting. That's probably the best way to say it. They become wanting of these things.
Well, they should never feel like they will never feel whole or completed.
Right.
They will always feel like something is missing.
Right. So that's when the greed comes in. And
Right.
greed comes in always at an early age. And it just progresses as the child gets older. Fear also comes in early childhood. The child becomes feared with a specific kind of fear, the fear of lack. So when the child starts to latch on to an adult because they feel like that adult is going to not provide them with the love, not provide them with the attention, not provide them with certain things, it now triggers a fear spirit inside the child because now they feel like, okay, mommy is hugging me right now, but mommy's not going to hug me for the next couple weeks. So I need to get as much as I can. It's a fear state. It's a fear demon that now is triggered in the child. So not only does the child have a gluttonous, greedy spirit, but now they have a fear spirit on top of that. You follow me right now? So obsessively, they become obsessive. And they start to not have the nutrients and everything that they need when they're growing up. So they compulsively start to want to have things. It's a compulsive disorder. Hoarding. A lot of people laugh at hoarders, but hoarders, that comes from childhood. That comes from not being loved properly as a child. And thus the people can't let go of things. They hold on to every little thing that they have. Receipts from 1985, right? There's a reason why they're holding on to certain things. And it's not because they want to hold on to it. It's because the demons are telling them they have to hold on to it. It's a difference. Hoarding is the same thing. And hoarding, more than likely, when they were going up in their childhood, they weren't loved the proper way, or they weren't loved at all. Hoarding, preventing other people from getting what it is that you want. You want a certain item, you're going to stop people from getting that certain item. That's greed. There's a few other things with greed that we're going to point out tonight also. Blaming others for not being able to provide for yourself. That's another form of greed. Right? So the definition of gluttony is one that eats too much. And in this Bible study, we're going to show gluttony and we're going to show sin. Because food is one of the devil's most powerfulest weapons. Right? And food makes you spiritually impotent. Think of it. You eat a big meal, you can't read your Bible after that. You're spiritually impotent. And the devil knows that. Right? So the first thing that he did with Yeshua, what did he do when he first attacked the shop in the wilderness? The first thing that he attacked them with was bread. Right? The very first thing after that 40-day feast, 40-day fast, the very first thing that he attacked Yeshua with was bread. Right?
The world says, oh, when I'm going through something, I have to have my comfort food.
Right.
But who's the comforter?
The Holy Spirit.
Right. So, there you go, spiritual empathy.
Right. We shouldn't be ignorant of the fact that the devil is trying to ensnare you to overeat. It's the devil. Because the devil deceives you. You have a lack of want or a lack of something going on in your life. So you compound it, or the devil makes you compound it with food. And he knows that food, if you compound it with food, then he knows that that's another way of separation from the Most High. Because we're going to find out tonight, the Most High is not too pleased with gluttony. Okay? Gluttony is a very important subject that a lot of people don't talk about. Why is that? Because everybody talks about food. We need food. We need food. Comfort food. Right? John 8:34. Comfort food. We need food. We got to have food. Right? But the Bible tells us about food. The Bible tells us, be mindful, be watchful, be vigilant. I'm not saying if you're hungry not to eat. That's asinine. But if you ate, you're filled, right? And let's say something triggers, an emotional event triggers. And now you have to go back and eat again. The devil got you. He's fooled you. All right, John 8:34.
John chapter 8, verse 34. Thou shalt answer them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin.
Very simple. Whoever committed sin is a servant of sin. Gluttony is a sin. So if you're committing gluttony, then you are a servant of sin. It's just that simple. What you have to do is, once you find out that, because a lot of people don't understand what gluttony is. We're going to find out and understand that today. A lot of people don't understand what greed is and the many tentacles that greed has. We're going to find out that today. The Father is very particular on gluttony. I mean, look what he says about Esau. Esau was gluttonous. And look what he said about Esau. He hated Esau. He hated that spirit. Okay? There's another spirit that he hates. Right? Spiritual food was the original instrument used in the Garden of Eden. Right? So we're going to go to Genesis 2. 16 and 17. Genesis 2, 16 and 17. Okay. Let's read that.
Genesis chapter 2, verse 16. And the Lord, the Most High, Ahiah, commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die.
All right, so the commandment, the one commandment that they had was not to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So let's skip over to Genesis, the 3rd chapter. If you have questions via the chat, you can place your questions on the chat. We will answer them accordingly. Any questions here, you know what to do. Genesis 3, 1 through, we're going to read 1 through 7. All right, Genesis 3. Let's read that.
Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord, the Most High, Ahiah, had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath the Most High, Ahiah, said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High, Ahiah, hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Now, you have to think of it for a second. Why didn't she name the tree? Why didn't she not name the tree? She said, but of the tree, But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Most High God said that thou shalt not eat of it, neither touch it lest he die. Genesis 2:17, he gave us a specific name for that tree. So that leads us to believe that maybe Eve saw the tree prior to the devil coming in and saying, what do you mean you can't eat from? What you mean you're going to surely die? See, that's how sin operates. She, of course, they knew the tree. He told them the name of the tree, but yet and still Eve did not mention the name of the tree in verse 3. So that leads us to believe that maybe that tree was appealing before the devil came.
Thought about it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thought about it before he came.
Right. But you never mentioned the name of the tree. If you're going to come against something, you're going to come against it. The Most High said the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we're not going to eat from it, and I'm not going to eat from it.
And if you want to,
But she said in the midst of the garden. Pick a tree in the midst of the garden. There's plenty of them. Right?
yeah.
All right. Wonderful when you read and point out the just man.
So was that like a fiery dart that she received, you said?
No, it's like
Because
this.
she saw it like before?
She saw it before, and she was curious about it.
Right.
She thought about like, I think what kind of.
Right. Next verse.
Verse 4. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. For the Most High doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat.
He didn't even question it.
So it's like this. You have to know. So we know it's not talking about fruit.
Right.
And
But, yeah, but right, go ahead.
so meaning that she had to see Lucifer in the garden before, or Satan in the garden before, and he was checking him out. You know, we just don't really go up to nobody and start talking to them, trying to check them out. And he was probably so, he's handsome or whatever. He desired to talk to him. So she was curious about him. Why did, you try to tell us not to talk to him? I wonder what he's going to say. It was a curiosity there. And so when sin come about, we just don't go and do something. There's a curiosity. If I do it, I wonder, what do you think? Am I right? Or there's a curiosity there before?
Yeah, there was a curiosity there. Yeah, there was a curiosity there.
Because if it was not a curiosity, like you said, she would have came against it. Like, no. Most High said, don't eat from it, she would have named it specifically.
Right. Let's read next verse.
Verse 7. Genesis chapter 3, verse 7. And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons.
All right, so they knew they were naked. They knew they sinned. The point that we're trying to make here is that the Bible in reference food, right? Wisdom, knowledge, whatever the case may be. But there's a greed aspect to it, right? And she was greedy. Adam was greedy. Adam didn't even question. How many people bring you food and you just don't question what happened, how was it cooked, you just start eating, right? Gotta be careful of that. Romans 5:12. So the devil used man's desire for food in the past to entice him to disobedience. So you can be sure that he's going to continue that method to keep people sinning against the Most High. He's not going to stop using the method that he did in the garden. He feels he was successful by doing that. And look at the people who are 4, 5, 6, 700 pounds. Satan feels successful with those people. Those people are not, man was not built to be 4, 5, 600 pounds. Man was not built to be that large. Right? So the devil is using those people as well. Yes, ma'am.
Is that why even now today, the foods that have the aborted baby fetuses in them? Like, well, before I learned about what foods had them, it seems to be like those are the flavorful ones. You know what I mean? Like the Gatorade, those chips. And now knowing, it's like, but before, those are the more that are sold, the more that are branded out there, and like people eat it. Like, and what it does to you. Do you know what I mean?
Desired,
yeah, the most commercials for them, everything.
We talked about bacon before we what pig bacon pork.
Right.
When we smell bacon, we want to give me some. It smells so good. Now we know what we know. We smell it, and it's like that stinks. It's
Right.
like burnt skin. Like you don't want it.
Right. Romans 5:12.
Romans chapter 5, verse 12. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned.
And that all have sinned. So a person has a natural desire for food. Okay, when you start to get hungry, you eat. Animals, when animals get hungry, they eat. When a deer gets hungry, he's not going to say, well, I'm not that hungry, I'm just going to pass over this roughage. He's going to eat. And of course, when that lion sees that deer eating and that lion's stomach is growling, that lion is not going to say, well, I just have some dandelions. They're going to look at that deer and say, oh, that's meat. I'm going to eat. Satan uses that he attempts to use it to his advantage. When we eat our normal meal, okay, but he uses it to our advantage when we start to get in our emotions.
Oh yeah.
And he uses that to his advantage. Comfort food. Everybody has a comfort food. So everyone needs to denounce that comfort food because of the fact that comfort food is not from the Most High, it is from Satan. Anytime something makes you feel good that's outside the Bible, it's from the devil. So if you have, that's my comfort food, mashed potatoes and gravy. If that's your case, you got to denounce mashed potatoes and gravy. It's a setup from Satan. Let's go to Ephesians 4. Okay, Ephesians 4:25. Yes, it's a question.
How do you differentiate between what's a comfort food and somebody just has a favorite food?
Well,
Is it the emotional factor?
it's the emotional factor. Right.
Yeah, because if you're going through something, what is the first thing you're going to do?
You're going to reach for that comfort food.
And
You're
so,
not going to reach for the Bible. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to have a favorite type of food. No, it's not. Lion's favorite meal is gazelles, right? So of course, they'll try to attack anything, but their favorite food is a gazelle. They would rather have a gazelle than, let's say, a wildebeest, right? Everyone has a favorite type of food. There's nothing wrong with that. But when that food starts to take over, and when you're going through and you're dealing with things, and that food brings you down, that's just like flaring up a crack pipe.
you may bring you down or bring you up.
Bring you up? Yeah, bring you up. Food is just like a crack pipe. You're not depending on the Most High for anything. You're depending on the Most High for food. That's what got Esau in trouble.
What about people who have an issue with fasting because they're dealing with gluttony?
So that's a whole other topic in itself. Like, you have something, you have an issue with something that the Most High is telling you that you should be doing anyway, right? So that's a problem. That's a problem. Ephesians 4. 4:25 to 27.
Ephesians chapter 4, verse 25. Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. Be ye angry, and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath.
Be angry and sin not, but not the sun. We've talked about that many times. Go ahead.
Neither give place to the devil.
Neither give place to the devil. Don't give place to Satan. Don't give place to Satan. Comfort food gives place to Satan, right? But we're gonna understand how gluttony is deceitful. Let's go 2 Corinthians 2 and 11. And we're gonna see two actions of greed. All right, 2 Corinthians 2 and 11. Okay? Let's read that.
2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11.
Uh-huh.
Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices.
Right. We should not be ignorant of Satan's devices. And one of Satan's devices is food. Normally, most of Satan's devices are all material anyway. But he uses food. We're going to step away from food for a second. Let's talk about deceitful, about gluttony being deceitful. And let's talk about some actions of greed. We're going to go Jasher. The book of Jasher. And we're going to go chapter 88. The book of Jasher, chapter 88. And we're going to read verses 32 to 37. Now, of course, we could have went to the book of Joshua for this story. But I'd rather go to the book of Jasher for this one. We're going to go to the book of Jasher, chapter 88, and we're going to read verses 32 to 37. We all know this story because we've taught on it several times with Achan. All right, let's read.
Jasher chapter 88, verse 32. And the Lord said to Joshua, Why dost thou fall upon thy face? Rise, get thee off, for the Israelites have sinned and taken of the accursed thing. I will no more be with them unless they destroy the accursed thing from among them.
See, one person sinned, everybody gets guilty. Guilty by association. One person sinned, everybody gets turned guilty. Right? Next verse.
And Joshua rose up and assembled the people and brought the Urim by the order of the Lord. And the tribe of Judah was taken, and Achan, the son of Carmi, was taken.
All right, so he started to do an investigation. What happened prior to that is that the Israelites went up against a small town, maybe, and they thought they could take this town over. But this town only had a couple of men come out and wipe out almost an entire army. Why? Because of sinful acts. They tried to go up against the town of Ai and were literally defeated. Right? So then Joshua started laying prostrate and started passing out and all over the place. Why? What happened? We were powerful, strong. What happened? Most I said, get yourself up. Find out what is in that camp before I leave you permanently. All right, 34.
And Joshua said to Achan, "Tell me, my son, what hast thou done?" And Achan said, "I saw amongst the spoil a goodly garment of shinar and 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight. I coveted them and took them. And behold, they are all hid in the earth in the midst of the tent."
So he coveted all these items that were accursed. He shouldn't have took in the first place. Covetousness, right? That's greed. Next verse.
Verse 35. And Joshua sent men who went and took them from the tent of Achan, and they brought them to Joshua. And,
36.
and Joshua took Achan and these utensils, and his sons and daughters, and all belonging to him, and they brought them into the valley of Achor.
All right, he took them all. Family, everybody. That's why I say, men, you gotta be careful. Because you will throw your fire, you will throw your family in the fire. Literally. 37.
And Joshua burned them there with fire.
Burned them there with fire. Set them aflame, right? Everybody. The women were innocent, right? Children were innocent. That's see, you gotta go. Continue.
And all the Israelites stoned Achan with stones, and they raised over him a heap of stones. Therefore did he call that place the valley of Achor. So the Lord's anger was appeased, and Joshua afterward came to the city and fought against it.
Right, and then he prevailed, right? But this is what Yeshaya is saying. I don't like greedy people. I don't like people who covet things. And this is the Yeshaya that we know. This is not the Christian Yeshaya. Okay? Let's see another act of greed. If this is a different way, right? We're going to go to the book, stay in the book of Jasher, and we're going to be in chapter 44. So keep your markers, that some of you don't have markers, so you just stay there, right? The book of Jasher, chapter 44. We all know the story, but let's see what is behind the story with Joseph. The book of Jasher, chapter 44, we're going to read verses 14 to 16. Book of Jasher, 44. We're going to read verses 14 to 16. And let's see something. Go ahead.
Jasher chapter 44, verse 14. And Joseph was 18 years old, a youth with beautiful eyes and of a comely appearance. And like unto him was not in the whole land of Egypt.
All right, so no one had the countenance of Joseph throughout the whole land of Egypt, right? Because we know how Egyptians look. They ain't look like Israelites, right? 15.
At that time, whilst he was in his master's house, going in and out of the house, and attending his master, Zelicah, his master's wife, lifted up her eyes toward Joseph, and she looked at him. And behold, he was a youth comely and well favored.
She was looking, he was a youth, well favored. She was older woman, right? Looking at that young man, right? Verse 16.
And she coveted his beauty in her heart.
She coveted his beauty in her heart. That thing started to raise up. Go ahead.
And her soul was fixed upon Joseph.
Her soul was fixed on Joseph. Come on.
And she enticed him day after day.
Enticed him day after day. You could picture the filthy old woman trying to get to the young boy. Right? Next verse. Keep going.
And Zelicah persuaded Joseph daily. But Joseph did not lift up his eyes to behold his master's wife.
He did not look to behold his master's wife. Let's continue on with this. We're going to skip down to verse 23 and read 23 to 25.
Joseph chapter 40, Shalakia, Jasher chapter 44, verse 23. And Zelica desired Joseph in her heart that he should lie with her. And at the time that Joseph was sitting in the house doing his work, Zelica came and sat before him. And she enticed him daily with her discourse to lie with her, or ever to look at her. But Joseph would not hearken to her.
Now, you know what she was doing, right? Doesn't take rocket scientists to figure out she was showing probably some body parts. Okay? Enticing him. Next verse.
Verse 24. And she said unto him, if thou wilt not do according to my words, I will chastise thee with the punishment of death, and put a yoke of Shlakia, and put an iron yoke upon thee.
All right, first of all, she had it kind of backwards. She's going to kill him, then put a yoke of iron on his neck. See, emotion, when you're dealing with emotions, you start saying stuff backwards, you start saying stuff wrong, right? But she was coveting over Joseph, right? This is a form of gluttony in an entirely different way. When we always think about gluttony, we always think about food. But she was gluttonous towards Joseph. Verse 25.
And Joseph said unto her, surely the Most High, who created man, looseth the fetters of prisoners. And it is he who will deliver me from thy prison and from thy judgment.
That's not good. That's not good. You're turning down this woman, and she done said that I'm going to kill you and put a yoke of iron on your neck. Joseph said, Most High, who created the heavens and the earth, you throw me in prison, he's just going to set me free. Right? Let's get down to verse 36. And we're going to read verses 36 to 38. Look at what happens when you start dealing with this spirit. Let's read that.
Jasher chapter 44, verse 36. And Zelica became very ill on account of her desire toward Joseph.
Sick. Right? Go ahead.
And she was desperately lovesick on account of him. And all the people of the house of Zelica and her husband knew nothing of this matter. That Zelica was ill on account of her love to Joseph.
She was ill on account of the love that she had for Joseph, right? Lust. Sick. Right? Verse 37.
And all the people of her house asked her, saying, why art thou ill and declining, and lackest nothing? And she said unto them, I know not this thing which is daily increasing upon me.
She's lying, of course, and that's one of the things with gluttony. You're going to lie. Right? So she is saying that I don't know what this is. She knows exactly what it is, but she's not going to tell them what it is. Her husband may divorce her. Right? So she's feeling sick. And you know when you're feeling sick about something, you don't eat, you don't drink, you don't do anything. Right? Or you do the opposite and you just eat until you eat more than what an elephant can store. Right? 38.
And all the women and her friends came daily to see her, and they spoke with her, and she said unto them, this can only be through the love of Joseph. And they said unto her, entice him and seize him secretly. Perhaps he may hearken to thee and put off this death from thee.
Right. Right? So it's just like grab him, seize him. Do something because, once you get that young man, I'm sure you'll be satisfied. That's what they're saying. Right? So let's skip down to verse 53. And we're going to read verses 53 and 54. Let's read that.
Jasher chapter 44, verse 53. And she hastened and caught hold of Joseph and his garments. And she said unto him, as the king liveth, if thou wilt not perform my request, thou shalt die this day.
So she said, if you don't perform now, you're going to die. right? Hard up. Keep going.
And she hastened and stretched forth her other hand and drew a sword from beneath her garment.
She was gonna really do some damage to him, wasn't she? She put a sword to him like, you better drop the underwear or else. Keep going.
And she placed it upon Joseph's neck. And she said, Rise and perform my request, and if not, thou diest this day.
What was she telling her to rise? Come on now, we're all adults.
This is just safe for me to be quiet right now.
What was she telling her to rise, right? Oh goodness. Verse 34. 54.
And Joseph was afraid of her at her doing this thing,
Uh-huh.
and he rose up to flee from her. And she seized the front of his garment, and in the terror of his flight, the garment which Zelicah seized was torn. And Joseph left the garment in the hand of Zelicah, and he fled and got out, for he was in
He
fear.
was in fear. He got the front part of the garment. Okay, we don't have to sit up there and be holier than thou. We know what the front part of that garment she grabbed. Right? She was going to get her son. Right? Let's skip down. Oh no, let's continue on. Let's go 55 to 59. This is gluttony in a whole nother level. It's more than just food. Read that.
Verse 55.
Mm-hmm.
And when Zelicah saw that Joseph's garment was torn, and that he had left it in her hand, and had fled, she was afraid of her life.
Oh yeah, now Joseph's gone. So now he's going to tell Potiphar, I better come up with something. Keep going.
Lest the report should spread concerning her, and she rose up and acted with cunning, and put off the garments in which she was dressed, and put on her other garments. And she took Joseph's garment, and she laid it beside her, and she went and seated herself in the place where she had sat in her illness.
So she took off those enticing garments and put on her normal garments. The garments that she probably wear for Potiphar, she took those off.
Oh, lingerie.
Correct.
I know lingerie back.
And she decided, you know what? I'm going to put on my normal stuff so that I don't look like a slut. Keep going.
Before the people of her house had gone out to the river, and she called a young lad who was then in the house, and she ordered him to call the people of the house to her. Verse 57. And when she saw them, she said unto them with a loud voice and lamentation, See what a Hebrew your master has brought to me in the house, for he came this day to lie with me. For when you had gone out, he came to the house, and seeing that there was no person in the house, he came unto me and caught hold of me with intent to lie with me.
Don't we still get accused to this very day? Hold that thought for October. Keep going.
And I seized his garment and tore them and called out against him with a loud voice.
I called out against him. No, that's not what you did. Keep going.
And when I had lifted up my voice, he was afraid of his life and left his garment before me and fled.
All right, so you have to read the rest of the chapter. It gets really interesting because there's a snitch in the house. And this little boy came up and was like, that's not really what happened. Right? No, it wasn't Jeremiah. You have to read the rest of that chapter and find out because they start to beat Joseph and everything. This little boy comes up and it's like, he didn't do it. I was there. Right? But I wanted to point out that gluttony is more than just food. Read it on your own time. Let's go Proverbs 23. Yes.
What were the last verses that opportunities read?
Jasher 44, 55 to 59. Mm-hmm.
So just how you can be gluttonous over somebody, can you lust over food?
I'm sorry?
Just how you can be gluttonous over somebody, can you lust over food?
Yes. Mm-hmm. When you get really sick, you can lust over animals, right? Really get nasty with it. Let's go Proverbs 23, and let's read verses 1 through 3.
Proverbs chapter 23, verse 1. When thou sittest to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee, and put a knife to thy throat, if thou be a man given to appetite.
Mm-hmm.
Be not desirous of his dainties, for they are deceitful meat.
They are deceitful meat. Simply food, simply basically pleasure to taste. Temptation. Food is a temptation. Okay? And like the sister was saying, that some of those foods that are on the market today are flavored with all kinds of stuff.
I know, yeah.
And they drive you to get you to buy those products in order to continue to sin against the Most High.
What about mangoes?
What about mangoes?
There's a certain person bought some mangoes and brought it there. Garnishment, and the mangoes disappeared.
All right, gluttony brings on spiritual poverty. So we're in Proverbs 23. Let's skip down to verses 20 and 21. Proverbs 23. We're going to skip down to verses 20 and 21. All right, let's read.
Proverbs chapter 23, verse 20. Be not among wine bibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh.
Mm-hmm.
For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty,
Mm-hmm.
and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags.
So some people are so rich that they would never become poor, or no matter how much they ate. But in a spiritual sense, it's always going to be true to some degree that they're going to become poor eventually. Okay? The flesh is always contrary to the spirit. And we cannot do things that we should. That's why it's important in the times of seeking the Most High that you come in prayer and fasting. Okay? That you come in prayer and fasting. Alright? It is impossible to please the Most High without faith. Right? Impossible to please Him without faith. And we are of the flesh. We cannot please the Most High because we're flesh. And it follows to operate that with an in faith that we are in the flesh. In the flesh, we operate in faith. So what we're trying to say is that when we receive the most things of the Most High, if we don't receive the things of the Most High, that leads us to spiritual waste. Spiritual waste. We're going to go Proverbs 26, 25 and 16. And time wasted over overeating makes somebody spiritually poor. Apart from the time it takes to eat, many people fall asleep after a big meal, right? Just fall asleep. And or people who, try to sit up, and you hear the term, let their food go down. That's a sign of gluttony. When you overeat. Temporary contentment. It's a temporary contentment after eating a large meal, and it makes for laziness. You don't do work. Let's say you were supposed to read your Bible, you don't do it because you're so full from eating. Right? And the Bible also says that gluttony can cause you to vomit. Let's read that.
Proverbs chapter 25, verse 16. hast thou found honey? Eat so much as is sufficient for thee, lest thou be filled therewith and vomited.
Right? And vomit it. Our body cannot cope with overeating of food. And what happens is that when you start to overeat and you start to feel it come up, your body is rebelling against all the food that you didn't put in it. Thus, the body makes you vomit. You don't vomit on your own, but your body is making you vomit because your body cannot house all that food. So your body starts to rebel against you. And if your body starts to rebel against you, then that's not good. Because your system now, your body system is expanding on what it can really hold in. So that's why the vomiting comes in. And then when the vomiting stops, that means that the body has ceased, the problem has ceased. But think of the implications that you're doing to your body, physically and spiritually, by doing that. Okay? Basically, gluttony is not good. We're going to go Proverbs 25 and 27, yes.
And gluttony lead to procrastination?
Yes, it can. Mm-hmm. Proverbs 25 and 27. And nobody, understand this, nobody becomes gluttonous over Brussels sprouts. Right? I've never seen anybody be gluttony over Brussels sprouts or gluttony over liver. Right? Never seen anybody become gluttony over liver. It's always the pleasant tasting foods that you become gluttonous over. More than likely, you're not going to commit gluttony over vegetables. More than likely. More than likely, it's going to be meat. It's going to be pastries. It's going to be pasta. Yes, foods with sugars in it. Stuff like that. You're not going to be gluttonous over brown rice. I just got a big old bowl of brown rice and I'm just eating. No. That's not going to happen. More than likely, the food that you're being gluttonous over is tasty. Correct. Let's read it.
Proverbs chapter 25, verse 27. It is not good to eat much honey. So for men to search their own glory is not glory.
It's not glory. It's not glorious to see somebody committing gluttony. It's not glorious at all. Even the aftertaste. It's not glorious at all.
You know, that's why I don't understand a lot of these YouTube channels where they just have people eating.
Right.
And these people are just basically ignorant because they eat this large amount of food and they're smacking and chewing and trying to talk at the same time. It's just good growth.
That's so like you see that one that be yelling I be lovies or something like that. That woman is committing gluttony. And that woman needs prayer. She's committing gluttony. She's committing a horrible sin. That woman needs prayer. I mean, chances are she's not watching because she's probably eating shrimp lobster right now. But that woman needs prayer. Gluttony.
Unclean food.
And if you've been following her channel, I guess she's looking bad. Looking bad now. Okay. Demon's going to cash in on her one day. Gluttony is attributed to a fool. Let's go Proverbs 30 and 22. And with the next verse, we're going to do an exercise that I did previously. And maybe we'll get it this time. Proverbs 30 and 22. Let's read.
Proverbs chapter 30, verse 22. For a servant when he reigneth, and a fool when he is filled with meat.
A servant when he reign, a fool when he's filled with meat. Filled up to the brim. Right? Let's see something. Let's go to Luke 12. And we're going to read verses 15 to 20. What does Yeshaya say about gluttony or greed? Right? Luke 12, we're going to read 15 to 20. And I asked this once before, and I'm going to ask again. Count the number of pronouns that you see in this passage. All right? Luke 12, 15 to 20. Let's read.
Luke chapter 12, verse 15. And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisted not in the abundance of the things which he possesses.
So a man's life does not consist of what you own. Like we said, this earth is going to burn up. And all the material things on this earth is going to burn up. Yeshua is saying, don't be covetous. Your life don't depend on material things. Go ahead.
And he spake a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do, because I have no room where to bestow my fruits?
What should I do, because I don't have any room to bestow my fruits? Verse 18.
And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there will I bestow all my fruit and my goods. Verse 19. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast no goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry.
Go ahead.
But the Most High said unto him, Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then who shall those things be which thou hast provided?
Right. Then, what shall you be then? I'm going to take you off this earth. Are you going to take your possessions with you? Right? But look at all the pronouns that are here. He. Right? He again. Certain man, right? He thought within himself. He, himself. I. He, I, my, my. Yeshua is saying something. You know, he used to say that same thing. Me. Yeshua is saying the exact same thing. You can't operate like that. It's not all about you. Greed, covetousness. Fool says in his heart there is no God, right?
So what should he have done? He should have maybe shared it.
Right. Shared it. We're gonna. No, I don't think we're gonna. Yeah, maybe we'll touch on that a little bit later. So, should we as followers of Yeshua imitate that guy, or should we imitate Yeshua? Let's go Matthew 24. He says a person who's gluttonous is a person who has an evil spirit or an evil servant. Matthew 24, 48 to 51. Let's read that.
Matthew chapter 24, verse 48. But, and if that evil servant shall say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken.
Eat and drink with the drunken, right? Go ahead.
The Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of.
So while you're eating and drinking and all that, what if Yeshua comes in the midst of your gluttony's spot? Go ahead.
And shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
And we all know what that means. See, the gluttony spirit or the greed spirit will get you thrown in hell. These spirits that we've been going over for the last several weeks, we're trying to warn. It'll get you thrown in hell. Let's go back to Luke 12. We're going to read verses 45 and 46. All right, let's read that.
Luke chapter 12, verse 45. But if that servant say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to beat the manservants and maidens, and to eat and drink, and to be drunken, the Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him asunder, and will point him his portion with the unbelievers.
The Bible says be watchful, be sober, be vigilant, right? You can't be sober if you're just at an eating spree. You can't be watchful. That's what the devil plagues us. And understand this, when you go through and you eat so much, when you go to sleep, you don't have the willpower to fight, because you should be at a point where you're fighting in your sleep. You don't have the willpower to fight. So the devil got you spiritually and he got you physically. Yes, sir.
When you continuously sin, are you considered a glutton?
Yeah. If you continue sinning, you're a glutton. You're a glutton based off of whatever sin that you're committing.
Not even just lusting after food or whoever, but when you just sinning over and over again, you're considered a glutton.
Yes. Gluttony is more than just food, as we're going to see later. All right, gluttony is an attribute of a wicked person. So we're going to go Job 15. And we're going to read verses 20 and 21. Job 15 and 20 and 21. Let's read.
Job chapter 15, verse 20. The wicked man travaileth with pain all his days, and the number of years is hidden to the oppressor. A dreadful sound is in his ears, and prosperity the destroyer shall come upon him.
Prosperity the destroyer. So where's this prosperity gospel movement? Right? Because apparently they didn't read this scripture. Prosperity the destroyer. Let's get down to verse 27. Read verse 27.
Verse 27. Because he covereth his face with his fatness, and maketh callops of fat on his flanks.
Fat on his flanks. Fat, 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 fat. Right? Let's go over to Jeremiah 5. Jeremiah 5, 26 to 28. And let's see another sign of gluttony, but not food. Let's read that.
Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 26. For among my people are found wicked men, They lay wait, and he that setteth snares, they set a trap, they catch men. Verse 27. As a cage is full of birds, so are the houses full of deceit.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore they are become great and waxing rich.
Waxing rich, right? Your current day pastors. Majority of them. Right? Becoming great, waxing rich. Next verse.
They are waxing fat, they shine. Yea, they overpass the deeds of the wicked. They judge not the cause, and cause, Shlakia, the cause of the fatherless, yet they prosper. And the right of the needy do they not judge.
Mm-hmm. So, when you're a glutton, your heart becomes set on it. Right? We're going to go to Ecclesiastes 7 and 2, and then Ecclesiastes 8 and 11. Ecclesiastes 7 2 and Ecclesiastes 8 and 11. Let's read.
Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 2. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting.
Mm-hmm.
For that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart.
It is better to go to the house of mourning than to a house of feasting. It's gluttony again. Let's read verse 8 and Ecclesiastes 8 and 11.
Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 11. Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil.
Mm-hmm. As long as we yield ourselves to obey the devil, you are his servant. We cannot please him if we are we can't please the Most High when we're in the flesh. All right. Let's go 2 Timothy 2:22. Second Timothy 2:22. You're basically commanded not to do it. Let's read.
2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 22. Flee also youthful lust, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart.
Mm-hmm. So one of the principles of satanic worship is to indulge in fleshly lust. And when we obey the Most High, we abstain from doing that. We are giving glory to Him when we abstain from doing it. But when we indulge ourselves, then you're giving glory to the devil. When you indulge yourself, you're giving glory to Satan. When you're committing gluttonous acts or greed acts, we haven't really talked about greed, but we're going to get there. When you commit those acts, you're giving glory to the devil. You're not giving glory to the Most High. Yes, ma'am.
So something like binge watching, like would that be considered a form of gluttony?
A form of heat? I didn't
Binge
hear you.
watching.
Binge watching?
Like you keep watching stuff, like not like you're addicted to it, but I guess it's you are. But let's say like an episode come out, like a season, you watch the whole season in a day, and it's like 13 seasons out each, so it's like 13 hours in a day, and you just like watch it all. That's considered like binge watching, like gluttony.
That'll be considered a show. Because during those 13 hours,
I mean, you're productive somewhat, but the most of your time is like on watching that.
okay, well, explain to me how you're productive.
You might fold clothes, you know.
Well, I
things
mean,
like
if
that.
you're doing other things, then
But sometimes
that's
you're
something
not, though.
different. Well,
Like you might fold clothes and go, I'm gonna lay down and watch 5 episodes and get up and do this. But like you're watching it all in one day out of 13 hours.
Well, think of it like this too. Okay. Um, the thing of it is that I would say, if you're not commanded by a higher to do something during that time, sometimes we need time to relax. Now, 13 hours? No. But I mean, if you spend like 4 or 5 hours, depending on what the show is. But if you spend 4 or 5 hours and you're watching, like, you got a season of whatever, season of Dr. House, and you're watching 4 or 5 hours of, 6 hours of, 1 hour you're doing this while it's on, that's fine. But if you're spending the majority of your day watching and you're just sitting there watching, no. You be doing other things.
Well, let me just say, because I do that sometimes with certain shows, and I watch it at night, because sometimes during the day there's so much going on that I don't get any quiet time. So at night when everybody is asleep, I can actually watch the show. But it's a form of relaxing, but also like the way I think, the way I'm built. Doing the different shows, I mean, oh no, like I see different spirits, different things, like because I study psychology, so as a, studying psychology, that's how my mind works. Like I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, man, adultery, gay, like this is what they're promoting. Yeah. So I just want to clear it up. That's why everybody was laughing here, because I watched like 5 seasons in 2 days.
Wow.
But I'm gonna tell you, yes.
Let's say 5 episodes. 5 seasons.
But I'm
wow.
telling you, I learned so much because I was analyzing different spirits. I'm saying, okay, this is what the world is promoting. Like I learned some things and I know what to come against. And when I see things, I recognize. You know what I mean? So I actually learned.
Right. So it's not gluttony. It's gluttony when you're not doing anything. Right. We're going to go Galatians 5. Perfect time to bring this up. Galatians 5, 16 and 17. Because what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to seek spiritual things. One of the spiritual things that you're supposed to seek is fasting. Fasting should become a way of life. And the devil will use lust for food to prevent you from fasting altogether. You say, I'm going to fast for 2 hours because I want to get spiritually connected with the Most High. During those 2 hours, all kinds of food smells come around. Commercials come. Well, you shouldn't be watching commercials and fasting at the same time. When you're fasting, you should be in prayer. Right? Your thoughts, everything should be of the Most High when you're in prayer. When you're fasting. When you're fasting, you should not be doing other things. Right? Outside of prayer. But you're fasting and all of a sudden, the breakfast that you had just comes back up in your mind. The things the devil is playing mind games. And he's trying to get you to break your fast. Break your oath and your vow. We're going to learn in a while about break your vow with the Most High. Right? Yes.
So with fasting, would it be like unfruitful? Like, let's say you have to work, and in the midst of you working, you try to do scriptures and things like that, but most of the time you're working. So that's unfruitful?
That's rejection. That's not fasting. That's called a diet.
No, like let's say like.
If you're fast, okay, first of all, when you're fasting, you should, why fast at work?
Well, you know how like if you have a dream and you eat it, and something like that, and you want your spiritual man like to vomit up what you ate in your dream, something like that, and you fast. But
okay, so hold up. We never taught that here that you fast and you get delivered. Where'd that come from?
no, it's not like fasting, but you live like to pray though, like to be in prayer about it.
Right. When you're fasting, you should be in prayer. How
No,
would you be in prayer at work?
She said,
Like to have the
when
spirit
you
of
have a
God.
dream that you're eating
Right?
and you fast
Mm-hmm.
and you vomit it up,
Vomit what up?
whatever spiritual food you ate,
Like the seeds that were planted in you, like the things like
you don't fast for that. Okay?
No,
you
you
gotta
don't.
cut that.
You don't fast for that. You get delivered from that. Right?
We
Yeah,
know
that's what I meant, like deliver.
Prayer.
I don't mean like fasting deliver, but like you see what it is because like you could have ingested like spirit of poverty or something
Right.
like that.
And
And
you
like
go
you
through
pray to
deliverance.
like
But
understand
you,
what that seed
but you
is.
don't need to fast for that. That's not why you fast.
Right.
So you have a dream that you are eating. When you wake up, you denounce that dream. You reject that dream.
Right.
And you can do self-deliverance.
Right.
Whatever poison that was put in me, I reject you. I denounce you.
Right.
In the name of Yeshua, come out of me. You do self-deliverance.
Right.
And you can ask Father to deliver you. You don't fast to, you don't fast to see what it is, to get it out
Because you
of
already
you.
know what it is. So you don't have to fast for that. What fasting is spiritual connection to the Most High. Fasting is a spiritual connection to your child.
To get spiritually
To
strong.
get
So
spiritually
what if
strong.
you do that, like try to get spiritually stronger,
Uh-huh.
but like you're working at the same time, you, like in between things you're trying to read and things like that, but your mind's not fully focused. Is that like unfruitful?
It's not unfruitful, it's called spiritual warfare.
I mean, but you have to work, but at the same time you're trying, to read
You
scripture.
still can. You still
But it's not
can.
unfruitful though, like so it's still like not meaningful.
I have fasted and still had to go grocery shopping. And while I'm out driving or doing whatever I'm doing, that doesn't stop Mother from ministering to me and telling me, certain things if she wanted me to know. Like, it doesn't stop that.
Right, but I would say this. If you're going through a fast, the best thing to do, according to the Bible, the best thing to do is get in your quiet place. Now, of course, we have day-to-day lives. We have to do certain things. That should be secondary. If you're on a fast, you should get into a quiet place. You should be in prayer, speaking to the Father. That's the best way to fast. Now, of course, we have other things that we have to do throughout the course of the day. At the same time, though, if you're going to go through a fast, if you want to get spiritually connected with the Father, you want to listen to what He's saying, you can't listen to what He's saying while you're at work. Because your focus is not on the fast. Your focus is on whatever job that you're doing.
And what does Scripture say about fasting? What does the Bible say?
What does your Shine say about fasting?
He said, so anoint your head, wash your face, and go out. He's ready.
Well, that's something. That's when, that's when the Pharisees would walk around with dust on their face and dust on their head, and they wanted people to see that they were fasting. Right? A fast can also, not only is it more of a spiritual connection with the Father, but also discipline.
Well, we know that you cannot fast on the Shabbat or any holy
Correct.
days, or
Correct.
feast days, things like that. So
Right.
you're not supposed to, only on atonement. Yeah.
Right. Only on atonement. And, right. So see, fasting helps you become spiritually strong. On the Day of Atonement, that's when you should be actually the strongest, but that's when the devil comes at his strongest. You don't really have to fast. He died for your sins, right? The Christianity way about it.
Actually, it was an Israelite group that actually had a feast on the Day of Atonement. They had a feast on the Day of Atonement.
Alert.
We have a question on the chat.
Sure.
Someone says, Elder, when is it proper time to fast, and why should we fast?
Well, you should fast for spiritual connection to the Father. That's one. Fast for spiritual strength. fast for scriptural strength, fast for you want to be better in your walk with your shop. The fasting result should come from edifying yourself to edify the kingdom. That's what fasting should be about. Fasting should not be because you want a car. Or the church fast on Tuesdays, so everybody has to fast on Tuesday.
The pastor really don't do it. He went to the job.
Right. Right? So that's fasting should be some type of spiritual connection to the Father to better improve yourself. When you should fast, the best time to fast is when you have quiet time, when you're not doing too many things. That way you can connect with the Father. Okay? We didn't read Galatians 5, did we?
But,
Alright.
but he also said
Whenever the Holy Spirit tells you. When the best time is when you're not focused on doing other things and you just can focus on
like
Father.
if it's a busy time in your
Don't
life, don't fast.
Right.
But
Let's say if you got a week vacation, right? You're not doing anything, just laying around the house. That's a perfect time to, you know what, Father? I want to be close to you. Anybody got something about that? I want to be close to your Father or something? Yeah. So see, you want to be close to the Father. That's a perfect time. Because you're not at work. You're not focused on the day-to-day job or the day-to-day operations of the job or the day-to-day, whatever your day-to-day grind is. When it's a day where you don't have to do your day-to-day grind, it's a perfect day.
so if you work Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
Friday and Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, you know you can't fast.
Right.
So day one, if you often work day one,
Mhm.
that would be a perfect time to fast. Because you're at home, you're quiet, you have your scriptures, you can go into prayer. That would, it would be a perfect time.
Correct. Let's read Galatians 5, 16, 17.
Galatians chapter 5, verse 16.
Perfect way to bring up this scripture. Go ahead.
This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh.
See that? Walk in the Spirit, you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Next verse.
For the flesh lusteth against the Spirit,
Mhm.
and the Spirit against the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And these are contrary one to another, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would.
Right? And let's go over to Galatians 6, 7, and 8. Sowing to your flesh reaps corruption. Let's read that.
Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. Be not deceived. The Most High is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
Mm-hmm.
For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption.
Mm-hmm.
But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting.
Right. Once you get the spirit of gluttony, you will never be satisfied. Never. Whether it be through food, whether it be through money, whether it be through material things, you'll never be satisfied once you get the spirit of gluttony in you. We're going to go Job 27, 13 and 14. Job 27, 13 and 14. And you know what? Let's get Job. Hold that. Let's get Proverbs 27, 20. We're going to do Job 27, but hold that. Let's read Proverbs 27 and 20 first.
Proverbs chapter 27, verse 20.
Mm-hmm.
Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied.
See that?
So the eyes of man is never satisfied.
Correct.
And that's why the scripture says it's impossible to please the Most High and man.
Correct. Oh, we got something for that too.
Oh, all
Right? So it's impossible, right? Hell always is getting herself open more and more and more. Your eyes, because you're a glutton, your eyes are always open, more and more and more. Right? Distraction.
Oh, wow.
Let's read Job 27.
Job chapter 27, verse 13.
Mm-hmm.
This is the portion of a wicked man with the Most High, and the heritage of oppressors, which they shall receive of the Almighty. If his children be multiplied, it is for the sword, and his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread.
His offspring shall not be satisfied. So, because you have the spirit of gluttony, your children have the spirit of gluttony. Your offspring will never be satisfied. Right? Let's get Hosea, I think it's 4 and 10. I think it's Hosea 4 and 10. Which I should have on this teaching, I don't know why. Hosea 4 and 10. Let's read that.
Hosea chapter 4, verse 10.
Uh-huh.
For they shall eat and not have enough.
They shall eat and not have enough. Go ahead.
They shall commit whoredoms and shall not increase.
They shall commit whoredoms and not increase.
Because they have left off to take heed to the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Gluttony is a sin, and gluttony can be attributed to spiritual fornication. Right? Read on your own time Genesis 25, 29, and 34. That's Jacob and Esau. Right? All right, let's go to Ezekiel 16:49. Ezekiel 16 and 49. Okay, let's read that.
Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 49. Behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom, pride, fullness of bread, and abundance of idleness was in her, and in her daughters neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and needy.
All right. Okay. Greed. See, when you're greedy, you're not going to help anybody outside. It's all about you. Oh, we got a different spin to put when we get to later on. Different spin on greed. Let's go Hebrews 12:16. Okay. Esau, right? Sold his birthright for a piece of food. Greed. And in fact, the food was for a sick child. Greed. Let's read.
Hebrews chapter 12, verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright.
Spiritual fornication. Greed. Probably wouldn't have tied spiritual fornication and greed, but that's what it is. Yes, ma'am.
Covetousness is the same as greed?
Yes. Greed can lead to unsatisfied hunger and can be a chastisement. Let's go to Leviticus 26, and we're going to read verses 23 to 26. Unsatisfied hunger can be a form of chastisement. Let's read that. Leviticus 26, 23 to 26.
Leviticus chapter 26, verse 23. And if ye will not be reformed by me by these things, but will walk contrary unto me, then will I also walk contrary unto you. I will punish you yet 7 times for your sin. And I will bring a sword upon you that shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. And when ye are gathered together within your cities, I will send the pestilence among you.
The pestilence comes among you. Go ahead.
And you shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy. And when I have broken the staff of your bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall deliver you your bread again by weight, and you shall eat and not be satisfied.
You shall eat, but not be all that bread. You're going to eat and not be satisfied. Come on. That's it. All right. Also, when you're dealing with greed, you forsake the Most High. When you're dealing with greed, or when you're dealing with gluttony. And another form of greed and gluttony is stinginess. That's another form of greed. Stinginess. Let's go with Deuteronomy 8, 11 and 12. Deuteronomy 8, 11 and 12. And let's read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 11. Beware that thou forget not the Lord thy power, and not keeping his commandments, and his judgments, and his statutes which I commanded thee this day. Lest when thou hast eaten and art full, and hast built goodly houses and dwell therein,
dwell therein, right? It's only obvious what the Most High, what Yeshua feels about greed and what he feels about gluttony. It's only obvious, but we don't go with just obvious. We continue on, right? Let's go Judges 2, 11 and 13. Because forsaking the Most High means that you're going to be doing this. Judges 2, 11 and 13. Let's read.
Judges chapter 2, verse 11. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Baalim. And they forsook the Lord our power of their fathers, which brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods, of the gods of the people that were round about them, and bowed themselves unto them, and provoked the Lord to anger. And they forsook the Lord and served Baal and Ashtaroth.
Served Baal and Ashtaroth. So when you're dealing with these spirits, greed and gluttony, you're dealing with Satan. Just that plain and simple. And then what happens is that when you start dealing with Baalim, Baal, Ashtaroth, whoever it is, then you forget who the Most High is. Totally forget him. We're going to go Deuteronomy 6, 11 and 12. You totally forget who the Most High is. And then we're going to talk about a couple of spirits that bring on greed, that are part of greed. Let's read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 11. And houses full of all good things which thou fillest not, and wells dig which thou diggest not. Vineyards and olive trees which thou plantest not, when thou shalt have eaten and be full. Then beware, lest thou forget the Lord, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage.
You forget who the Lord is. You don't remember who the Lord is. You don't remember who Yeshua is. Right? Let's talk about a couple of spirits. First spirit that we're going to talk about is affluenza. Yes. AFFUENZA. Affluenza. AFFLUENZA. affluenza, right? This particular spirit is for those who have a great deal of money. Affluenza is a rich consumer.
They thought it was a fool.
No, that's influenza. But just like influenza, affluenza is very contagious. Let's see affluenza in scripture. Let's go Proverbs 28 and 25. Affluenza is the disease of greed, the demon of greed. Okay, let's read that.
Proverbs chapter 28, verse 25. He that is of a proud heart stirreth up strife, but he that putteth his trust in the Lord shall be made fat.
May be made fat. Put your trust in the Lord, right? Proud heart. Materialistic mindset. It says getting more money, getting more possessions is the ultimate way of life. Affluenza is the spirit, and it's here. Affluence is here. Gotta get the better car. Gotta get the better this. Gotta get the better that. And it infects. It infects us all. We have to be very mindful of this. There's a second spirit that we better be mindful of. We're going to talk about that in a second. Before we get there, let's go 1 Timothy 6, 17 and 19. And then let's get the second spirit that Yeshaya spoke of. Okay, 1 Timothy 6, 17 and 19. Let's see more about affluenza. Wasn't there a young man who was in court and they found him not guilty because he was from an affluent lifestyle? Somewhere in Texas. They found him not, he did some crime and they said that he wasn't guilty because he was rich. Maybe I'm off. 1 Timothy 6, 17 to 19. The trial had affluenza in it. The name of it was affluenza something. Let's read.
1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17. Charge them that are rich in this world that they be not high-minded, not trusting in certain riches, but in the living power who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. They that do good, that they be sluggard. They that do good, that they be rich in good work, ready to distribute, willing to communicate, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life.
There you go. Right? Charge them that are rich in this world that they may be high-minded. Right? Trusting uncertain riches, but enjoying the Most High. Right? Okay. So, now with the spirit of affluenza, there's a spirit called mammon. Right? That's a demon. Let's go Matthew 6:24. Yeshaya warned about this. And people like to substitute mammon with money. You can't serve the Most High with money or mammon. Mammon is not money. Mammon is a demon. It is a demon. And Yeshaya warned us about this demon. It's a demon. Right? Let's read Matthew 6:24.
Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. No man can serve two masters.
Oh, right there. Right? No man can serve two masters. Is money a master? No, it's not. Read.
For either he will hate the one and love the other,
Mhm.
or else he will hold to the one and despise the other.
Mhm.
He cannot serve the Most High and Mammon.
Mammon is a demon who, according to Israel history, it holds one of the cardinal sins, and that is greed. It's greed. It's so powerful that innocent people can be sucked into it. And this is what Yeshaya was trying to warn us about. How many parables did he give us about storing up their treasures in heaven? He's warning us about that. Many precepts about him saying, store up your treasures in heaven. Don't store up your treasures on earth where it can rust. Moth gets it, it rust up. But he's warning us about this demon of greed.
It's a demon.
Right? Mammon, greatest power is affluenza. That's his greatest power. And this demon inspires envy, jealousy, greed, lust, anything that can be potent so that the person can fall. That's why Yeshaya says, store up your treasures in heaven. Let's see something. Let's go to Luke 16 and verse 9. Because if mammon was money, right, then this scripture we're about to read would not make any sense whatsoever. But if we say it's a demon, then it'll make total sense. Luke 16 and 9. Read that.
Luke chapter 16, verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitation.
Now that scripture would not make sense if it was talking about money. Yes.
I've looked up mammon also on the phone.
Uh-huh.
And it's Strong's G3126.
Mm-hmm.
It says of Chaldean origin, confidence that is figuratively personified, mammonist that is avarice.
Avarice is also greed.
Extreme greed for wealth or material gain.
Mm-hmm. So it's not money. Avarice is greed. Right? Okay. So this sets the tone for those to resist mammon. You place a barrier between yourself and the Most High. Let's stay in Luke 16. Read verse 11.
Luke chapter 16, verse 11. And therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches?
The true riches, right? Worldly wealth.
So I'm not understanding something.
Okay.
Because you said Luke 16
Remember
and 9.
we did the parable of the unjust steward.
Right.
Remember?
I guess I didn't catch it at the time because
Okay.
it came to Luke 16 and 9. It says, and I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when you fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitation.
Sorry. Remember what the parable of the unjust steward was? Let's read verse 8.
Luke chapter 16, verse 8. And the Lord commended the unjust steward because he had done wisely.
Remember what he did? He said, you about to fire me? Oh, I need to go and give people discounts. Right? Yeshaya commended him.
So, did he have a change of heart? Like, I'm not saying, why would Yeshaya say go and make friends if this mammon's supposed to be a demon?
Okay.
Why would
He
Yeshaya
didn't say go make friends though. That's not what he's saying.
make to
See, we have to go back to the parable of the unjust steward, and we've explained what these scriptures meant. So let's go back up Let's go back up to Luke chapter 16. Let's just start the parable from the top. Let's go through it really quick.
Luke chapter 16, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And he said also unto his disciples, there was a certain rich man, which had a steward, and the same was accused unto him that he had wasted his goods.
He had wasted his goods, right? Rich man had a steward. The steward wasted his goods. Okay, go ahead.
And he called him and said unto him, how is it that I hear this of thee?
Get this report. You wasted my goods. What's up with that? Keep going.
Give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest be no longer steward. Then the steward said within himself, what shall I do? For my Lord taketh away from me the stewardship.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot dig. I cannot dig. To beg I am ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses.
They may receive me into their houses. So those would be the people who owed him money. Remember, we paralleled this with Robin Hood. Go ahead.
Verse 5. So he called every one of his Lord's debtors unto him, and said unto the first, how much owest thou unto my Lord? And he said, 100 measures of oil.
Mm-hmm.
And he said unto him, take thy bill and sit down quickly, and write 50.
Right.
Then said he to another, and how much owest thou? And he said, 100 measures of wheat.
Mm-hmm.
And he said unto him, take thy bill and write 40.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 8. And the Lord commended the unjust steward because he had done wisely.
The Lord, Yeshua, commended the unjust steward because he's done wisely. Keep reading.
For the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light.
He's saying that the children of the world are wiser than the children who are in the light. Right? So he's saying this unjust steward, I'm commending him because of the fact he thought of doing something righteous. Keep going.
Verse 9. And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitation.
Mm-hmm.
He that is faithful.
The mammon of unrighteousness is those who are opposed to heavenly riches, right?
Okay. I get it now.
Okay. But let's finish the verse.
Verse 10. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much.
So what the verse is saying is that true discipleship, there's a financial obligation to true discipleship. He's basically calling this unjust steward. And remember, the title of it is Unjust Steward. He was treated unjustly. So he wrote the wrong that he was doing in the first place.
Right at the right.
Yeah, right the wrong.
Oh, you wrote that.
Right? Okay, so now we understand what the scripture's saying?
So I thought he was making friends with unrighteous people that had.
Sort of. But isn't that what a disciple is supposed to do? Go to the unrighteous?
Yeah, that's true.
That's why Yeshua commended him.
Yes, okay. See, y'all understand that? No, he's not there.
What is it?
So, when he said that, when Yeshua said, for the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light.
Correct.
When that unjust steward was about to get fired and he thought of doing something right. But Yeshua is saying that when you go through something, or you're about to go through something and you say, think to do something righteous, like what the unjust steward did.
Yeah, we just said he righted his wrong.
He righted his wrong.
So when you
Robin Hood. Remember, I can't think of an analogy of Robin Hood. What was Robin Hood? He was a thief. All in all, he was a thief. But what he did was he took from the rich and he gave it to the poor. Robin Hood was a thief. Very good thief, but he was a thief nonetheless. So Yeshua isn't commending the act. He's not commending the act, he's commending the fortitude, if I can say that. Of course I can. He's commending the fortitude, the want to do what's right. Sometimes we do things that are right, and we kind of cut corners a little bit. But the overall objective is doing what's right.
I have one more question, but it's about man.
Okay, man.
Is that why this world, why Yeshua kept warning us about, the mammon and being consumed with riches and fame and stuff? It's because of that's why the spirit is a huge reason why this world is so consumed with materialistic things, and you gotta be this, and you gotta have so much money.
Yeah, Yeshua is warning. Yeshua has been warning us. A lot of his parables, well, not a lot of them, but I would say a third of his parables were about storing up your riches in heaven versus storing up your riches on earth.
Well, let's just look at it like this too. Even with banks, do you really want to store your money in a bank? Because once your money is in there, it's really not yours. There's laws set in place where they can take your money and use it, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't get it back. They won't have to pay you back or anything.
Right.
So do you really want to put your money in a bank?
Right. All right. Let's go to Colossians 3 and 5. Let's see the many faces of greed.
Was that Peter or the Apostle Paul when the guy was trying to pay them for the Holy Spirit?
That was Peter.
So people that have money, they feel like they could just buy anything.
Buy anything.
So the spirit of the demon of greed has, like you said, many tentacles.
Right.
To it. It's just not one thing.
Correct. We could have put that on here as well, but we did. All right, many faces of greed. We're going to go Colossians 3 and 5. All right, let's read that.
Colossians chapter 3, verse 5. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry.
Covenant, which is idolatry, right? So one of the things of greed, you probably won't even understand this one, so I'll explain it. Being a bystander is a form of greed. Sitting back and let everybody do everything else and you don't do anything. That's greed. Right? That's greed. When people are working hard at work and the person's just sitting back, watching, that's greed. When people are, cleaning up or whatever the case may be, and one's just sitting back, that's a form of greed. Right? Another form of greed is trying to manipulate the system. Greedy people look for clever ways to try to find loopholes in things, try to outsmart rules, right? Try to bend regulations for personal gain. That's wrong. Very wrong. And Yeshua's going to have his way. And like with the parable of the unjust steward, it may be totally legal, but it's wrong. Let me give you an example. Your job says that you have a 15-minute break, but they have a loophole that says you're not considered late if you take 17 minutes. You're not considered late if you take 17 minutes, right? There's a little loophole. In fact, that's with most jobs anyway. You just don't know it, right? So there's a little loophole there, right? So people who know this little loophole would take advantage of that. Come back from break at 16:58, 16:59, right? Even though you get a 15-minute break, you're taking advantage of the little loophole that's there.
Extra 2 minutes.
An extra 2 minutes. In Yeshua's eyes, that's wrong. It's wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Someone says, Elder, is making money off the stock market greedy?
No. Now, if it consumes you, then yes.
Well, let's go back to it, because the Shine said not to store your treasure
Right.
on earth, but in heaven.
Like 401ks and all that.
I'm going to tell you something. I have never known anybody to make money off of stock. Because what is it designed to do?
There's a person who made money off of
Yeah.
it, and he's in jail right now.
It's designed to go back to the people who's supposed to be taking care of your money. They
Right.
keep you investing so you will never collect.
No, I wouldn't invest in the stock market or anything like that, because that's showing a lack of faith,
Yeah, that's not of the Most High. I would do
right?
that.
It's not a sin, but it is showing lack of faith.
You might as well gamble then. When you do
That's
the
a
stock
sin.
market, you might as well gamble.
But yeah,
Because you don't know if the stock's going to hit or not.
right. Well, unless you got insider trading, which that's not good. That's bad. You'll go to jail. All right. Okay. So, looking for ways to save money, right? That's covetousness. Material gain, that's covetousness. You have to be very mindful. The devil is very, very clever with this.
Oh, I have a question I was going to ask you.
Yes.
Okay, so say you have your debit card,
Right?
and on your debit card, the bank allows you to go $10 over.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get paid again, of course, you pay that $10 back, but it's no extra fee.
Right.
So you know you have that $10 over the limit every time, and you do it every time. Is that
Mhm.
greed?
That's greed. Reason why is because of the fact that even though it's legal, you can do that. The parameters of the company will allow you to do that. But what is it still showing? It's still some form of greed. Come on.
Greed.
It's still some form of greed. Right? I mean, let's call it what it is. There is still some form of greed. Whenever you are doing something, regardless whether it's legal or not, it goes up against the Bible. It's greed. You can't manipulate the system. That's greed. You can't twist and turn because financial gains or whatever. That's greed. Yes, ma'am.
But isn't it because you actually need that?
Where's
But
your
do you
faith?
actually need it? Do you manage your money better?
Right.
Or you just, if you don't have it, you wait for the Most High to provide it? So the same person said, what if you have stock in like Netflix, Visa, MasterCard, everyday things that you do?
Like I said before, it's not a sin to have stock. It's not a sin. So don't start cashing in your stocks and all that, saying, well, that elder said. No, stock markets are not a sin. There's not. It's not. And
I would just say it's up to your own discretion, and let's leave it at that.
right, but it doesn't. It's not a sin though. We're not going to start making up sins.
No.
It's not a sin. That's your own personal thing, and the elders don't get involved in your own personal things.
No, you don't.
But what we do is, if something is a sin, we're going to let you know it's a sin. If it's not a sin, we're going to let you know it's not a sin. But you determine that 401ks are not a sin. I mean, it does show a little lack of faith because you don't think that Father's going to take care of you in your twilight years. But who really has a 401k in the first place?
Not ever since all those companies started taking people retirements and, you know,
Right.
I
All right.
wouldn't trust them.
So let's go 1 Timothy 6, 6 through 10. First Timothy 6, 6 through 10. Let's read.
1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. But godliness with contentment is great gain.
Mm-hmm.
For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out.
You brought nothing into this world, so when you leave, you're not going to take nothing with you.
Well, I guess we just answer that question to the start.
There you go. Go ahead.
And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content.
You have to be content with whatever it is that you got going on right now. You have to be content. And I'm glad that question came up because I knew this scripture was coming up next. Just let the Bible answer about 401ks and stock options. Read.
But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare,
There you go. Come on.
and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition.
So that's why I said 401k, stock market options, whatever the case may be, it's not a sin. However, keep going.
Verse 10, for the love of money is the root of all evil,
Mm-hmm.
which while some coveted after have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows.
So you see why I say mammon is not money, it's a demon? Because here the scripture said money didn't. But when Yeshua was speaking, he was saying mammon, which is an evil spirit.
They have other evil spirits connected to it.
Correct. So, people who want something for nothing, that's greed. Right?
Is that like
Free. Free. I want free stuff. I want rewards. I want this. I want that. Right? Greed. Greedy people take all kinds. Greedy people take stuff that don't belong to them. Greed. Did you know robbing someone of their confidence? That's also greed.
yeah.
You bring that. Some people, because they're so selfish, right? It's all about me. Greedy people make themselves feel better about themselves by tearing other people down, insulting other people, making other people feel bad, talking down to other people. That's even worse than physical greed. It's spiritual greed. And the Most High is going to deal with those people really quick. You ever notice when a person comes in a room and they just suck the oxygen out the room? They come in the room and you just want to turn and go the other way?
Negative Nate and
Negative Nancy and negative Nate, right? So, how do you do your living for me? Yes, sir.
robbing someone of their confidence,
Mhm.
would that be sowing discord?
Yeah, of course it's on discord, amongst other things. Right? How do you get delivered from greed? First off, read the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Right? Pray to the Most High that he would meet you in those Gospels and instruct you on what the Gospels are saying. Next thing you want to do is you want to practice charity. Practice charity. Putting people's needs in front of yours. Practice charity. Give assistance when you can. A lot of us don't have time, but volunteer once in a while. Someplace. Ministries, church, whatever the case may be. Right? First of all, enjoy the things that the Most High is giving you. Don't go out and seek for more.
So if you work at one job,
Don't go get
don't go
free.
trying to get 2 or 3 jobs.
Right. Yes.
That go with family as well?
Yeah, of course it does.
What? Yeah, one
What
time
go
we
with
go
what?
to
What you
another.
mean? What goes with family? You said a few things.
Like being content with what?
Yes. Yes. Okay. When you give with generosity.
Don't give just because the Bible says so.
Exactly. Because then you're not giving because the Bible says so. Okay? All right. Our last scripture is Acts 20:35. Acts 20 and 35. All right, let's read.
Acts chapter 20, verse 35.
Mm-hmm.
I have showed you all things, how that so laboring ye ought to support the weak, and to remember the words of the Lord Yahshua, how he said, it is more blessed than to give, it is more blessed to give than to receive.
It is more blessed to give than to receive. Right? Laboring, support the weak. If you have it, give it. If someone asks you for something and you have it and you don't give it, you're a Satanist. You're a Satanist.
When someone says elder, I always say that money is a tool. It's not something to work with. But it sounds that some people with or your family. When I call it a tool, is that okay with the Most High?
If you call money, if you're helping out your family, then that's the Shia law.
You know, it's like this. When we have money, I don't try to hold on to it and keep it. I look at it as this. In Matthew 5, it says that, the Most High, He will provide for us. So the money that is worked for us, is to provide for us to get the things that we need. So I don't try to have a savings account or bank, I'm going to hold on to this money. No. When it's provided, the things that we need, it's more important to have the things that you need than to be storing up money.
Right. And let me say this too about helping family members or helping anybody. It's right, but it's wrong if you know that they're going to use that money for sin.
Yeah.
If they're going to use that money for sin, and you help them out, you become in covenant with that sin.
And you put a curse over your finances.
Correct. So if you're helping someone out and you know that they're not going to use the money to sin, albeit, go ahead. But if you know they have a track record of puff, puff, give, or gambling, or cracking that government seal bottle, then you're going to be in covenant with that sin. Even if you don't do it, because you aided to it. All right? Now, yes, ma'am.
It's a question of the manipulating system.
Yes, manipulate the system, okay?
So let's say, like, for example, two scenarios. Like, let's say, like, you want to cooking and things like that. And you have enough money, like most times you got enough money for you to do it, but you're still trying to find coupons to save a little money. Is that greed and also like lack of faith? Because you already know you have
Using coupons?
yeah, like let's say you go to a restaurant, you're like, oh, I'm gonna sign up. Like you purposely sign up because you know they're gonna give you like a free appetizer or like money off, or you like search coupons, but you already know you have enough to buy it.
Okay.
Is
Well,
that like form of greed and like lack of faith as well?
that's basically the whole, you got a 15-minute break, but there's a loophole, so you take 16 minutes and 30 seconds. It's part of the system.
It's like you have that extra $10, but if you manage your money right, you won't need it. So you're just gonna spend truthfully and say, oh,
I got
use
this,
that
my
$10.
friend.
Yeah.
Right. No, using coupons, that's not a form of greed. I wouldn't say that's a form of greed.
Well, not like, I guess coupons or, like, you see this place and like, oh, I'm going on your website and sign up to get this free because
But you're still spending money.
But it's like being the system though, right? Because like,
No,
you know
it's
you're going to
not.
get it for free.
It's not being the system because they are promoting it.
No, they don't promote it. Like you just know. Like I'm just gonna go here and sign up because
So how would you know if they don't promote it?
Because like you know,
See, if it's on the internet, they promoted it somewhere.
but no, it's not like promoted like saying like sign up here to get this. You just know sign up. The other
Right.
places do it. Sign up, you'll get this. It's not like that if you're looking for it.
But they're still not beating the system because they have that in place. They may not. It's not announced on jobs that you have a buffer for your breaks. It's not announced.
Only
It's
way-
known by management.
Yeah.
But then somebody may have leaked some information to a worker, and now that worker and a few other workers do that same thing. You can't get you can't get in trouble because of it because it's a loophole, but it's not known.
Is it ethical for you to do it? Like if you sitting at your desk, you know you back and it's 15 minutes.
But you sitting there,
I'm gonna take this extra minute in.
right? That's where the
Exactly.
ethics comes in
Yeah,
at,
your ethics.
right? Right. Any other questions? Any questions on the chat before I continue?
Yeah. Someone says,
Okay.
oh no, this kind of doesn't.
That's fine. We can. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Before we open up for questions. So this is going to conclude this part of what we've been teaching about. We've been teaching about various types of spirits throughout the last several weeks, I believe. Starting next week, we're going to change it. Right? Starting next, in fact, let's open it up for questions. Let's open up for general questions. And then I'll tell you what I'm so excited about.
Okay. Someone says, I was reading Genesis last night, and I got caught up on Genesis 6:6
Okay?
about the Most High repenting He made man.
Yes.
We know He's perfect, so why would He say that, brothers?
All right, let's go to Genesis 6:6, and let's point out something.
Genesis chapter 6, verse 6. And it repented the Lord that he made man on earth, and it grieved him at his heart.
You know what? Why don't we go up to Genesis 6 and 4? Let's get a full understanding on what repent means here for the Most High. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 6, verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of the Most High came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. And the same became mighty men that which were of old, men of renown.
Okay. Go ahead.
And the Most High saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually.
Now we can understand what he says when he said they repented him. Because it wasn't repent like he made a mistake. It was repent because he's changing his direction. If you read the first few verses, man continually was getting eviler and eviler and eviler and more wickeder and more wickeder and more wickeder. So now, Yeshua had to change the direction on how men was being raised. Thus, the deluge. Understand? The times where it says in the Bible where Yeshua repented, he wasn't repenting because he committed a sin.
Right.
He wasn't repenting because he made a mistake. He wasn't doing that. He was repenting because now there's a change that I have to make. I have to change the way men were acting. Thus, the deluge or flood. Yes, sir.
But Numbers 23 and 19. Yeah, where go with what?
Numbers 23 and 19. Let's see it. So you understand that the Most High or Yeshua, they don't repent because of a mistake. They repent because they're changing the direction on what's going on. Let's read that.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 19. The Most High is not a man that he should lie, neither the Son of Man that he should repent. Hath he said, and shall he not do it? Or hath he spoken, and shall he not make it good?
Now that repent means mistake. You go to Malachi, he says that I change not. He doesn't change. Right? But when he talks of repentance, when he talks of him repenting, and I believe there's 4 other instances in the Bible where he says, I repent. When he talks about him repenting, what he's saying is that he's changing the direction of mankind. Okay? So I pray that answered your question. Any other questions?
No, that was it.
All right. So join us tomorrow for the Memorial of Trumpets teaching. We're going to understand the Memorial of Trumpets and what the trumpet represents. It is the fall holy day according to Jubilees, the 6th chapter. But we're going to have all those scriptures tomorrow. What I'm excited about is what's coming up. We're going to start our law classes starting next week. All 613. All 613.
Yay.
And these teachings are going to take us from September to possibly Purim, maybe to Purim. Topics, right? Laws, the monarchy, incest, justice, loans, businesses, agriculture, Nazarites and teachers, the dietary law, priests and temples, sacrifice laws, temple laws, blasphemy laws, prohibitions against historical events. That means always looking back at Egypt. There's laws against that. Idolatry, relationship to the Most High's laws, wrongful act laws, servant laws, judicial laws. There's laws on family conduct. There's laws on social conduct. There's laws on war. There's laws on idolatry. There's laws on community conduct. There's laws on the festival and holy days. There's laws on concerning in animals for consumption. That's a little different than the dietary law. There's laws for the Sabbath. There's laws on donating to the temple and donating your time. There's laws on purity conduct. There's laws on vows, sacrifices, and there's even laws about the Torah. We're going to go through all 613. And we're going to get understanding on all 613 with these categories. So, get your thinking caps on.
And this came from the Holy Spirit.
Yes, it did.
Elder and I wanted to do something else, and I was like, he was like, yeah, I was thinking, I was like, no, you couldn't take my idea. But as I was going through some information, I heard law class.
So next week is going to be the introduction to law. The introduction to the law. And I give Mother all the glory and praise because that one's almost done. In fact, most of these are already taken care of. So I thank
It was
Mother for
extra
that.
confirmation because how long have you had your research?
March of 2017.
He had started to gather information on the law.
Yes,
March of what?
2017.
So when Mother told me one class, so it was a confirmation
Right.
that
So there's three basic categories that the laws go in. And we're going to find that out next week. So, and I'm excited because I always get excited when I've been doing something for a while and now it can be brought to the forefront.
and, you know, a lot of people don't know the law. If you haven't actually studied them or been in a class or study where they're being taught, a lot of people don't know them.
But we're going to know them.
You know, everybody knows the Ten Commandments, but all the other ones, and they all are still important.
Yeah, some of them are not important right now because, of course, animal sacrifice, we won't be doing that until 1,000-year reign. Right? So the animal sacrifices are all on hold right now. But it's important to know them because we're going to be doing them again. Right? So, I'm excited for the law teachings that are coming forth.
So I want to say that when we start this next week, try to get yourself one of those 5-subject notebooks.
You're going to need it.
The 5 subjects, they have a lot of pictures in them.
You're going to need it.
Yeah, so get that.
You're going to need it. All right? But like I said, this ain't about sitting and playing church. This is about going to school. This is about wilderness readiness. Wilderness readiness. That can go on a t-shirt. Wilderness readiness.
You say that every time, and you see, I bet everybody else is making these t-shirts for us.
Probably. That means the people in here is not. Okay. All right. So with that being said, no questions on the chat. Our live stream will start tomorrow at 1 p.m. And we'll make a few more announcements about Day of Atonement tomorrow. All right. With that being said, we're going to start to enjoy the Memorial of Trumpets. These are solemn holy days. Solemn holy days. So don't decorate your house with balloons and all that other stuff. Save that for dedication of Pure End. Okay? So these are solemn feast days for this month. With trumpets, with atonement. Definitely you don't play music on atonement. That's, you know. And tabernacles and the 8th day feast. So with that being said, we want to say shalom to you. We'll see you in a few hours.
If you've enjoyed this teaching and found it educational, please like and subscribe to future teachings.
Come on, let's roll.
Shalom,
Shalom, Yeshua.
Come on, let's roll.